Wakalah is one of the many supporting contracts that is used in the Islamic finance. It comes from the root word wakalah, which means to perform a task on behalf of another, that is the delegation of duties or jobs to another person or entity. It can be comparable to the concept of agency in general, whereby one party, muwakil, will give authorization to another wakil to perform a task as an agent on behalf of the muwakil in the matters that can be delegated. This is done either voluntarily or for a fee. The contract of wakalah is about the provision of service. Some of these services include sale and purchase, letting and hiring, borrowing and lending, taking and making payments, litigation and relinquishment, admission and acknowledgement of right, assignment of debt, guarantee, pledge, gift, or bailment. An essential element of wakalah consists of four. First, representative, which is the authorized agent. Second, muwakil, the principal or client. Third, muwakil bih, things or subject matter to deal with. The last one is siqah, the offer and acceptance. Condition of wakalah in Islamic banking consists of three. First, contracting parties. The agent is capable of performing the responsibilities. Second, the object of the contract. Any object matter is clearly specified and mentioned in the contract. The third one, siq, there is an offer and acceptance. Law concerning wakalah in Islamic banking and finance. Wakalah in Islamic banking refers to the concept of a businessman entrusting another to act in his stead or as his representative. It has been a long-standing custom to appoint an agent to facilitate trade operation. Wakalah is the most important element in Islamic partnership and in modern law too. The relationship between partners is known as a principal-agent relationship.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Alia binti Hamizi 2021619968 from RBA2424A. I will continue presenting about types of wakalah. Islamic finance wakalah is a concept that allows individuals to delegate financial and business matters to agents while adhering to Islamic ethical guidelines. Wakalah differs depending on the types of transaction and the principal's intention. In terms of specificity, limitations, and authority, it is through these variations that Islamic financial practices maintain transparency and accountability while meeting the needs of the principal. In deciding which type of wakalah to use, it is important to consider the nature of the transaction, the level of control the principal wants, and whether the agent can be trusted. The first types of wakalah is particular wakalah or special agency. An agency contract is referred to as a particular wakalah when it was established to fulfill a specific and well-defined task. Wakalah is a contract whereby a principal appoints an agent to carry out a role on their behalf. There is only one transaction covered by the agency. Agents may be appointed by a principal, for example, to sell a particular house or purchase a particular car. An agency contract clearly outlines the terms and conditions of the relationship between the principal and agent. A principal's agent is expected to act in the best interest of the principal, with their authority limited to the specific task for which they were appointed. Agents are supposed to execute transactions in accordance with the terms agreed to by the principal. The second type is general wakalah. An agent is delegated general powers and authority by the principal through general wakalah. There are no specific instructions provided by the principal for a particular transaction, unlike a particular wakalah. Agents are instead authorized to act on behalf of principal in a broader sense. As an example, the principal may instruct an agent to look for and purchase a 4-bedroom house on their behalf. Agents are authorized to search for property on behalf of principals, negotiate terms, and execute the purchase within their authority. Principals entrust their agents with their responsibility to act in their best interest and make decisions that meet their preferences and requirements. The third one is restricted agency. Restricted agency is wakalah in which the principal limits or set conditions for the agent. In order to fulfill the task assigned to the agent, the principal specifies specific parameters and restrictions. In addition to price, time, or other specific conditions, restrictions can also relate to other aspects of the transaction. Agents may be instructed by their principals to purchase homes with a specified time frame or at a certain price. The agent must ensure that their actions fall within their restrictions specified, as their authority is limited by these conditions. Agent in this type of agency retain some control and influence over transaction while delegating some responsibility to their principal. The last one is absolute agency. Wakalah of absolute agency, also known as unrestricted agency, involves the principal not placing any limitations or condition on the agent. An agent acting on behalf of principal has full discretion and authority without being bound by any predetermined guidelines. Agents may be told by their principals to simply sell properties without specifying a price or time frame. According to their experience, judgment, and market conditions, the agent has the freedom to negotiate the terms of the transaction. It allows the agent to exercise his or her expertise and negotiate the best possible outcome for the principal because it gives the agent more autonomy and decision-making power.
Based on the illustration, the bank as a wakil needs to give back the principal amount invested as well as the expected return to the investor. In the case of non-profitable investment, only the principal amount is returned to the investor. Hence, it is important to implement a wakalah contract prudently in order to avoid the Sharia issue of guaranteeing investment return by the agent. The operation of wakalah in Islamic finance involves the following key processes. Firstly, appointment of agent. The principal muwakil appoint an agent wakil to act on their behalf in a specific transaction or business activity. The agent is entrusted with the authority to carry out the task within the scope defined in the wakalah contract. Second, task specification. The wakalah contract clearly defines the nature and scope of the task or activity that the agent will undertake. This includes specifying the objective, limitation, and condition under which the agent will operate. Thirdly, agent's responsibilities. The agent is responsible for performing the assigned task diligently and in accordance with the terms of wakalah contract. This may involve tasks such as managing investment, executing transactions, providing agency services, or fulfilling other duties as agreed upon. Fourth, principal's instruction. The principal may provide specific instruction to the agent regarding the execution of tasks. This instruction can include investment preference, risk parameters, ethical consideration, or any other relevant guidelines to be followed by the agent. Fifth, decision-making authority. The wakalah contract determines the extent of decision-making authority granted to the agent. The principal may give the agent full discretion in decision-making, or there may be specific limitations or requirements for seeking approval from the principal for certain actions. 6. Agency fee. The agent is entitled to receive a fee or compensation for their services. The fee structure, amount, and payment terms are agreed upon in the wakalah contract. The fee can be a fixed amount, a percentage of the asset or profits, or any other mutually agreed upon agreement. 7. Sharia compliance. The agent is obligated to ensure that their action and decision comply with Sharia principle. This include avoiding prohibited elements such as interest, riba, uncertainty, horror, and engaging in ethical and permissible transactions. 8th, reporting and accountability. The agent is required to provide regular reports and updates to the principal regarding the progress, performance, and financial aspect of the wakalah. This ensures transparency and accountability in the agent's operation. Ninth, limited liability. The agent's liability is typically limited to acts of negligence or breaches of the Wakalah contract. The agent is not responsible for any losses or risks associated with the underlying assets or activities unless there is a clear violation of their duties. Lastly, termination and renewal. The Wakalah contract may have a specific duration or can be terminated by either party under certain circumstances. Termination can occur upon completion of the task, expiration of the contract period, or mutual agreement. The contract may also include provision for renewal or extension. These operational processes provide a general framework for the operation of Wakalah in Islamic finance. The specific details and procedure may vary based on the nature of the Wakalah arrangement and the requirement of the parties involved. In the context of Islamic finance, the application of Wakalah can be seen in various areas, including: firstly, investment funds. Wakalah is commonly used in Islamic investment funds. The fund manager acts as the agent, wakil for the investor principals, as is responsible for managing the fund's investment in accordance with Sharia principles. The manager's role is to make investment decisions and execute transactions on behalf of the investors. Secondly, takaful. Takaful companies often employ the Wakalah model. In this case, the policyholder principal appoint the takaful operator agent to manage the insurance fund on their behalf. The operator charges a management fee for its services, and any surplus generated from the fund is shared between the policyholders and the operator based on pre-agreed ratios. Third, agency services. Wakalah can be used for various agency services in Islamic finance, such as trade financing, project financing, or syndicate financing. For example, a bank can act as agent for its customer in providing trade financing services, where it manages the transaction and facilitates payment on behalf of the customer. Last but not least, trust and estate planning. Wakalah can also be utilized in trust and estate planning structures compliant with Islamic principles. In such cases, a trustee agent is appointed to manage and distribute the asset of the trust or estate according to the instruction of the grantor principal while adhering to Sharia guidelines. It is important to note that the specific term and condition of Wakalah contract may vary depending on the jurisdiction, institution, and purpose of the arrangement. The above example provide a general overview of how Wakalah is applied in Islamic finance.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Izzati Syamim binti Muhammad Jamil with ID number 2021849752. I will share about Tawaruq and the form of Tawaruq. Tawaruq is an Arabic term commonly used in Islamic finance, specifically in the context of Tawaruq transaction. It refers to the sale of a commodity to a buyer on a deferred payment terms, followed by the buyer selling the same commodity in the market to obtain immediate cash. In Tawaruq, a buyer purchased a commodity on credit at a deferred payment price from a seller. The buyer then sells the commodity to a third party for immediate cash, effectively converting the credit into liquid funds. This transaction allows the buyer to access funds while adhering to Islamic principles that prohibit charging or payment of interest, riba. Tawaruq is a specific form of financial transaction within the broader framework of Tawaruq, which aims to provide liquidity to individual or business in compliance with Islamic finance principles. There is two types of Tawaruq. First is Tawaruq al-Fardi and second is Tawaruq Munazam. Tawaruq al-Fardi, also known as classical Tawaruq or individual Tawaruq. Tawaruq al-Fardi is a type of Islamic finance transaction that allows an individual to obtain cash by selling a commodity that he or she has just bought. The steps involved in Tawaruq al-Fardi are as follows.
First, the mustawrid buys a commodity from the mukrid on credit. Second, the mustawrid then sells the commodity to the mutabarir for cash. Third, the mustawrid uses the cash to pay the mukrid. Transaction is permissible in Islamic law as long as the following conditions are met. The commodity must be a permissible one. The seller must own the commodity before selling to the mustawrid. The mustawrid must intend to sell the commodity to a third party for cash. The mustawrid must not sell the commodity back to the seller from whom he bought it. The second form of tawaruq is tawaruq munazam. Tawaruq munazam, also known as structured tawaruq. Tawaruq munazam is a type of Islamic finance transaction that allows a person to obtain cash by selling a commodity that he or she has just bought. The transaction is structured in such a way that it complies with the Sharia prohibition on interest. The steps involved in tawaruq munazam are as follows. First, the mustawrid enters into a murabahah contract with the mukrid to buy a commodity on credit. Second, the mustawrid then enters into a want contract with the mutabarir to sell the commodity to the mutabarir for cash on a future date. Third, the mustawrid used the cash from the want contract to pay the mukrid for the commodity. The following are the conditions that must be met for tawaruq munazam to be permissible in Islamic law. First, the commodity must be real and tangible. Second, the commodity must be in the possession of the mukrid at the time of the murabahah contract. Third, the commodity must be capable of being sold and delivered. And fourth, the markup on the commodity must be reasonable and not excessive. 5. The one contract must be for a specific amount of cash and a specific future date. 6. The mustawrid must not intend to use or consume the commodity. 7. The mustawrid must not sell the commodity to the mutabarir at a loss. And lastly, the tawaruq transaction must not be used to circumvent the prohibition on interest.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nora Melisna binti Zahari with the matric number 2021454212 from class RBA2424A. I would like to presenting to you about condition and issue on tawaruq. Firstly, ownership of the commodities. Tawaruq involves the sale of commodities such as metals, agriculture items, and any other legal goods. Before the transaction, it is crucial that the seller be the owner of the goods being sold. This stipulation guarantees the seller legal ownership and ability to transmit those rights to the buyer. Secondly, commodity is specific. Tawaruq demands that the commodities involved in this transaction be precisely identified and described. The kind, quality, quantity, and the other pertinent requirements of the goods must be agreed upon the buyer and seller. Clarity and transparency in this transaction are ensured by specifying the commodities. Thirdly, possession of commodities. In tawaruq, the seller must have the goods and question in hand before the sale can proceed. This requirement guarantees the seller has physical possession of the goods and can deliver them to the buyer after the sale is complete. Besides, avoiding inna sale, tawaruq aims to keep clear of inna sales, which are deals containing postponed payment terms combined with an arbitrary price increase. This requirement emphasizes transparent pricing and discourage any form of usury or interest. Transaction involving tawaruq should not have any component of hidden interest. Other than that, details of the time of payment. Tawaruq demands a certain understanding between the buyer and the seller regarding the timing and schedule of payment. The timing and method of the payment should be agreed upon by both parties. This requirement makes sure that everyone is on the same page regarding the payment terms. Next, avoiding is usury. Tawaruq, like other Islamic financial transactions, forbid charging interest or usury. Commodity transactions should be performed impartially and without considering of personal gain. Tawaruq uphold the value of justice and refrain from taking advantage of parties' financial requirements through interest-based contracts. Lastly, immediate delivery is necessary according to tawaruq, who demands that after the deal is complete, the buyer receive the commodities right away. Immediate delivery guarantee that ownership of the good is swiftly pays to the customer, upholding the values of transparency and avoiding speculative or ambiguous situation. Issue on Tawaruq. Firstly, community. Something has value. Tawaruq requires the involvement of a tangible community that has inherent value. However, one issue that can arise is the use of low value or insignificant communities society for the purpose of facilitating the Tawaruq transaction. This can lead to concern about the genuineness and substance of the transaction, as it deviates from the spirit of Islamic finance that emphasizes real economic activities and value creation. Secondly, possession and delivery. The object must exist. Tawaruq transaction require the existence of the commodity being sold and its physical possession by the seller. However, issue can arise when the commodity involved is a financial instrument or an intangible asset that lack of a physical existence. This can raise questions about the validity of the Tawaruq transaction and its compliance with the requirement of possession and delivery. Lastly, agency. The bank acts as an intermediary and agent. In Tawaruq transaction, the bank often plays a dual role as a financial intermediary and as agent on behalf of the customer. The bank acts as an intermediary by purchasing the commodity from the market and selling it to the customer at a different price. However, concern may arise regarding the independence and agency of the bank in executing the transaction. It is crucial to ensure that the bank role as an agent is transparent and at the best interest of the customer, avoiding any conflicts of interest. All of these issues highlight the challenge and potential area of ambiguity in Tawaruq transaction. It is essential for Islamic financial institutions to carefully address this concern to ensure the compliance and integrity of Tawaruq transaction with Sharia principles. Regulatory bodies and scholars continually assess and provide guidance to mitigate this issue and ensure that Tawaruq transactions align with the ethical standard of Islamic finance. That's all from us. Thank you.
Comparison between Wakalah and Tawaruq. Wakalah and Tawaruq are two types of contracts used in Islamic finance. They are both based on the principle of agency, but they have different purposes and implications. The main difference between Wakalah and Tawaruq is that Wakalah is a general contract of agency, while Tawaruq is a specific financing technique. Wakalah can be used for any purpose, while Tawaruq is only used to obtain cash. Another difference between Wakalah and Tawaruq is that Wakalah is considered to be a more secure contract. This is because the agent is obligated to act in the best interest of the principal and to follow their instructions. In contrast, Tawaruq is a more complex contract and there is a risk that the person may not be able to repurchase the asset from the third party. Wakalah is a general agency arrangement widely used in various Islamic finance transactions. It can be employed in areas such as investment management, fund administration, Islamic insurance, takaful, and other financial services. The principal delegates authority to the agent for specific purposes and outlined in the agreement, while Tawaruq is primarily used to meet short-term liquidity requirements without resulting to interest-based loan. It is commonly employed in Islamic banking to provide cash financing to individuals or businesses. Tawaruq-based products such as personal financing or working capital facilities are structured to comply with Sharia principles. Ultimately, the choice of whether to use Wakalah or Tawaruq will depend on the specific circumstances of the transaction. If the person is looking for a secure and straightforward way to obtain cash, then Wakalah may be a better option. However, if the person is looking for a more flexible financing technique, then Tawaruq may be a better option. Thank you.